Had the producers or anyone been developing this book by Anthony Quinn before you got involved, or was this something you were involved with from the very beginning?
No, no. It's basically um, Jolyon Symonds, the producer, had optioned Tony Quinn's book. Tony and Patrick were friends, and they'd gone to Patrick to ask if he would be interested in adapting it. Patrick loved the book, but I think there was one particular character in the book that he and the world that he was most interested by. So he sort of said, "Oh, I'd like to do that," and Tony was happy. So then I think I'm not sure how long they were working on that together, but I think after 2 or 3 years, um, they came to me in 2019, just before the world changed, and I was obviously delighted to be asked because I mean, I just think Patrick's one of our absolute greatest, finest writers, and I'm lucky enough to have known him as well, and so yeah, it was a no-brainer. I couldn't say no. Really, I was very lucky.
But how long were you able to get like actually start shooting? Because considering COVID has happened, you start prepping and then just to stop and wait until it was safe to.
No, so we had a version of the movie up and running and financed by a major studio with a major star, and then COVID happened. So literally 3 months we were just finalizing deals and about to start, locations, everything, and then COVID happened, and then the world changed, and obviously everything fell apart, and it didn't come back together again, because also the market for this kind of movie had disappeared, right?
Mm.
Folks of 40 and over weren't going to the movies anymore. And so in the end, we had to drastically reimagine how to create the world of this film without losing what it was. And David Gilbery and Bill Kenwright just came on board because they read the script and absolutely loved it, and wanted. They have a long-standing relationship with Ian, and could see that it would work amazingly for Ian. So it came back together in 2022, and we shot it in 5 weeks in the late summer of 22.
Okay. By the way, what was it about either the book or the screenplay that kind of interested you? What was it about this particular story or world?
Um, you know, the writing was exceptional. I know, I've been a huge admirer of Patrick's work. He's a kind of diamond hard, but quite can seem on the surface quite bitter and dark and jaundiced. There's a lot of his work explores how people manipulate each other and hurt each other, but underneath it all, there's a kind of beating heart of something, of a kind of, which I know from knowing Patrick the man, right? And if you look below the surface, you realize that although he's interested in exploring all these quite dark, difficult, the bad things that people do, they're actually real people at heart. They're both good and bad. They're good people doing bad things for reasons you can understand, but and that's what makes them so fascinating. And yeah, it was just a rivetingly good read, and I was lucky. I reached a point in my life where I felt like it was time. I could, it was time for me to hopefully have a chance to make another film. I hadn't made a film for a while, so I leapt at it.
Yeah, I was curious about that because you did go into TV for a while after Leap Year. Had you been trying to develop other things, or were you just so busy with the TV projects that it kind of like the
No,
movies kind of
no,
fell by the
no.
wayside?
After Leap Year, I had a young family, two young boys. Have one of my kids was late diagnosed neurodiverse, and that in 2014. And I think that obviously was a moment where, frankly, the film business and how it operates is not at all empathic with trying to look after a family and a child who needs a lot of care and attention. And so made a decision to step back from all of that, and setting up a television production company and trying to produce a bit was a way of trying to stabilize my life and my family's life in order to protect my son. So that's what that was about, really. I think sometimes in life, yeah,
Makes
there's
sense. Makes sense.
things that are more important.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the critic, but by the way, I saw the critic at TIFF last year. I was at the premiere a tip.
Ah, so
So
you know the story then, the evolution.
no, I don't. I'm going to ask you that also, but let's get back to Sir Ian. Were there any concerns about getting Sir Ian or on his end or your end? Because obviously COVID was going on. You obviously don't want to be the guy who gives Sir Ian Cohen COVID.
He really wanted to do it, and he's a force of nature. And we were a small crew, and we were all very, very careful. I mean, everyone obviously was super mindful, and somehow I think we only had two cases on the shoot in the crew, and one was in the transport department, and the other was, I mean, they were in kind of departments that weren't, we were unbelievably lucky. I mean, I know there were a couple of shoots around us who shut down for extended periods, and, it wasn't good.
Hmm.
But we were lucky, got through it. Ian was incredible. He loved it.
Let's see, yeah. What's it like as a director working with Sir Ian? I feel like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's one of these guys who just walks in, does his line, like he doesn't need more than one take. I mean, what's he really like though, as far as an actor from a
Well, the
director
thing about
standpoint?
Ian is what's interesting, and I think this is his superpower, is that and I'm just saying this, he's incredibly humble. You think this is Ian McKellen, the greatest actor of our British generation. He's Gandalf. There's nothing he hasn't done, both on stage and screen, and he's a kind of icon. But almost one of the first things Ian said to me when we came on set for the first day was, I'm really scared
Hmm.
that I'm going to fuck this up. I don't know if I'm going to be any good. You're going to have to kind of be my audience and tell me. And what that did straight away, the fact that he has imposter syndrome as much as I do, just suddenly everything went away. And I don't know what's going on sometimes or what I'm doing. So what that immediately means is you're all involved in just a conversation of trying to figure it out together, and you're not afraid to say, oh, I don't know, try again, or does that work, or that's great, or that's not, without fear of being judged. And because Ian brought that energy, and it's hard to believe, right? But he really is, that's who he is every day. Oh, I don't know. And sometimes it'll be, I feel bad today. And he'll just tell you how he's feeling and how worried or anxious he is. And that, for the rest of the cast, was also very liberating. It just meant that everyone wanted to, no one was posturing, there were no egos, no one was trying to, it was literally just, okay, we're all just going to try and do our best work and make Ian the best Ian can be, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the British actors I've spoken to over the years they're very humble. There's very different. Maybe it's just the schooling. They go to school, they're actors. They're not like you go to Hollywood. It's more about stardom. It's not about an acting. It's an interesting difference between like learning acting in England versus becoming an actor here. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I
Interesting.
think it's interesting because obviously a lot of English actors, not all, I mean, there's a whole generation now who aren't, but that old generation, they're very trained. They're like the great athletes. Ian's like Maradona or Lionel Messi. Or Djokovic or someone, he's an athlete. His control of his body and his craft is he can just do it without thinking. So there's a kind of level at which you understand it's a craft and you have your craft to fall back on. I think what can happen with some actors who achieve success and have had no training is you can sort of, there's a level at which if you're not sure of how you got there, it's like, well, I don't know. what why am I here? What is it? And that can breed some insecurity and walls can go up, I think. Also, I think it's difficult if you're an actor, you are judged all the time, and it's very difficult to separate yourself from that and to think, well, I'm actually not my work. Like, I know I'm not my films. If someone slags off the movie, which has happened on many films, they're not slagging me off. It hurts a bit, but I know I'm not my work, right? But it's much more different if you're an actor because it's hard to,
Yep.
you sort
Right.
of it's really complicated. So it's tough. It's tough.
And some critics are very mean about other things, things which have nothing to do with the movie at all, as I know. No, I don't do that, but I mean, I know a lot of friends, obviously. Um,
Well, you see, I think critics get a bad rap. I think it's important to be clear about what really good critical writing is art. It's writing, right? It helps to illuminate work for an audience and take us as an audience into work that we would ways we'd not have seen, or take us and introduce us things we'd never have known about, open our eyes to horizons, and also sometimes, you know, actually hold a mirror back up to the creator and go, could this have been better or not?
Hmm.
Right? And if you're humble, yeah, you should listen because you can always be better. Right. But so I'm interested in really good writing. I think the criticism that's just can be annoying is people who maybe don't really know, they think they don't really know how movies are made or haven't really
Sure.
understand the history of cinema, and they just feel like, they can just say whatever they want. And if you don't like something, that's fine. But then it can get personal because you want clicks and all that. It's a different thing. Everyone's their own publisher now. The meaning of criticism has just changed so much from what it used to be, but I think I was really lucky I got to know Derek Malcolm, who I think is one of
Hmm.
Britain's greatest film critics, and he changed my life. He was such an incredible, extraordinary man, and his love and appreciation of the cinematic art, I learned from him. He was a great teacher, and
Great.
I think critics at their best are great teachers, and we know how a great teacher can change your life.
Hmm. I keep on doing tangents away from the movie, and I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Although it's called the critic, so I guess it's still related. But you have two of my favorite actors, Gemma and Mark Strong, are in this movie as well. I mean, like once you get straight in, is it easy to kind of put together this cast? It's a pretty big cast. You said it was a small crew, but it's a pretty big cast, really.
Well, Gemma was the first person that when I came on board that we attached to the movie,
Okay.
because I felt that, or we all felt that that's almost the hardest role to pull off, right? She has the most difficult tightrope to walk because that's tough what that character does. And I think Gemma's effortlessness with which she both carries the quite dark and difficult things that character goes through and still makes you understand and feel for her, even though you might not approve,
Hmm.
um, and effortlessly match Ian in every frame that they're together without ever feeling like it's a competition. I think it's remarkable. She is an extraordinary actor of great grace and humbleness.
Great. By the way,
Mark's great.
yeah. By the way, doing a movie set in the 30s. I mean, are there any concerns about that? I mean, that's obviously gonna be a lot more involved. You're not gonna. It's harder finding places that look like the 30s. I'd assume.
Yeah, I mean, that was a challenge, 5 weeks. We didn't have much time. We shot all around London because of Ian and, we needed to be at his own bed event. So not a lot of 1930s London left anywhere.
Hmm.
So that was hard. But you see, I think what's interesting about the script was, even though it's a period piece, it actually, it's talking about a time where fascism and extreme political currents are in the air because of changes to media. It's talking about uh, uh, sexual oppression and hiding yourself, and whether these are, and it's talking about issues facing women still today. Whether it, issues of coercion or what you have to do. These are very current issues that the film explores. So in a way, the world of the film that we were able to create on a lot less money and time is actually much more of an abstracted world. We just went for what's the least we can have in each frame that'll make you think there's more. So there's a lot of smoke and there's few things in frames, but the few things there are were carefully chosen to be as evocative as possible.
Hmm. Before I let you go,
Also, there's a lot of close-ups.
oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Before I let you go, I'm curious about some of the changes in the movie from when it premiered to TIFF. Was a lot of changes made? Was it? I mean, in a year I've seen about 500 movies, so it's hard for me to
Yeah,
remember
well,
the
here's the
differences.
thing. I think, we were still in the cutting room when, and we were heading towards a series of test screenings like you would normally do, in order to see whether the movie worked or not. This ending, which was a very dark ending, and the movie takes a big turn, as you remember, to a very dark place, had been the original with the script for the 3 years before I came on board. So trying to execute that. But when TIFF came up and said they wanted the movie, having seen bits of it, we thought, well, okay, that meant we were literally rushing, and TIFF was our test screening. Now, I have no problem with that. All movies hit the rubber of an audience, and the audience tells you a lot.
Mhm.
And I think we learned a lot. I learned a lot, that sometimes it happens behind closed doors, sometimes it happens in public, and it's fine. I don't mind. Movies is an iterative process. So I think what we learned was that the movie, there was the first two thirds, first two acts of the movie were the right thing. They were working. And so the third act had to be of a piece with that and find a way. And as we thought and worked, we actually discovered it was all in there already. And
Oh,
so
gotcha.
we feel now that the new ending where, well, I won't give anything away, but if
No, no,
you've
please
seen
don't.
it, where Alfie is there, at the end, that for us felt that, oh, that's what it should always have been. And that's
Interesting.
the way. Sometimes, you come across the right answer only through process and time and work.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
I'm delighted.
yeah. Well, I enjoyed it the first time. I enjoyed it this time. It's very interesting. And in fact, I mean, I'm friends with the Hollywood Reporter, the main Hollywood Reporter critic, who's also a theater critic. He didn't review it out of TIFF. Someone else did. But
Right.
I recommend it to him because I'm curious what he thinks of it now. I don't know if
Um,
they'll, I don't know if we can get a do-over from the Hollywood Reporter. I don't know if they do that, but who knows?
I think this movie now is for the audience, right? It'll,
Right.
it's going to live in the world. We're opening on it's everywhere here in England. It's amazing. So I just hope that the movie, makes, works for audiences here, and that Ian and Gemma and Mark and Lesley and Alfie and Ben get the audience they deserve, because they really, they're tremendous, I think, in it. And it's rare to have a British film with that cast, made for that. It's hard, we didn't make a lot of money, and so you hope that it's cinema. I'm amazed
Mm.
it's in the movies. I really am. I can't
I,
believe it's going to be in the big screen.
yeah, I was surprised. I assumed it already opened in England. I feel like a lot of these movies that play TIFF open in England like a few months later. They don't really, but
Well,
you want to
TIFF
keep
was
working
a,
on it though. Yeah.
you may or may not remember, but TIFF was like the marketplace was kaput.
Yeah.
Nothing out of the UK sold. And it took time. And One Life only went off to America after I think it had done really well in the cinema
Oh,
here.
sure. Yeah.
And there's some great movies that never made it. Wicked Little Letters as well. Similarly, it was only after it had a release and done some box office
Mm.
that it got a US. I think it's a new world we're in.